On today's show, by popular demand, the Clippers have had a lot of great sixth men. In the last 15 years, we've even been a six-man breeding ground. But who is the king of all six men for the Clippers? Going to be talking about it all and settling the debate on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You were locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. I'm your host, Darian Vaziri, born and raised in LA, been a Clipper fan for 20 years, been covering the team for 5 on my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, and 3 right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell on the road to 8,000 subscribers, and you can listen wherever you get your podcasts. On today's episode, which is brought to you by Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for half off your first year. We're going to be talking about the sixth man conversation. Now, this is a little bit more of an all-time episode, but I've been getting requests about this, and I also saw a tweet that was asking the question, Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams. So we'll be talking about Jamal Crawford. We'll be talking about Lou Williams. And we'll be talking about Montrezl and Norman Powell, all guys. 3 of those won Sixth Man of the Year. One of those in Norman Powell was close to winning a Sixth Man of the Year in 2024 and in 2023, but had some injuries that kind of derailed those chances. So I'm going to be settling the debate. I'll be making the case for each. And then at the end of the episode, I will be telling everyone, or telling you who I'm going with. So let's have some fun. To begin, I'm going to start with my personal favorite, the guy who spent the most years with the Clippers, 5 years, and that is Jamal Crawford. Now, Jamal Crawford, absolutely, in terms of totality, had the best Clipper run. If you talk about the years that he spent with the Clippers, the impact that he had on the fan base, Jamal Crawford is the guy. From 2012-13 to 2016-17, he was ours, and his availability was nothing short of amazing. Only missed 6 games his first season with us, missed just 13 games the second season, missed 18 the third season, and then just 3 games in 2016. And in the most impressive of all, at 36 years old, he didn't miss a single game in 2016-17. Every single one of those years, the Clippers were in the playoffs, and he was a big part of that. He was second in Sixth Man of the Year voting in 2013 behind J.R. Smith, won Sixth Man of the Year in 2014, third in Sixth Man of the Year voting in 2014-15, won in 2016, and finished 7th in 2017. So 2 of the 5 years he won Sixth Man of the Year. He was a 2-time winner as a member of the Clippers, and he's one of the only people that can say that he has won Sixth Man of the Year 3 times in the NBA. The only other people that can say that, well, there's only one other guy, and it's Lou Williams, who also played for us. So with Jamal Crawford, let's just kind of go through his case, right? That first season he came to us was a very interesting one because he kind of took Nick Young's spot, so to speak, or maybe you can say Mo Williams or both. And I remember Jamal Crawford was one of those players where I was like, why is this guy like not an all-star? Like when I was a kid, I was like, he always cooks us. He's insane offensively. He makes ridiculous shots. His handle is one of the best of all time. I mean, dude is a straight up hooper. You put him out in the park and he can, just light it up. And he brings that kind of street ball style to the NBA game. Instant spark plug offensively that could play make and pick and roll, albeit back when he played, it wasn't as much of a pick and roll centric league. It was still a very ISO heavy league. You didn't have the spacing of the modern NBA. So the pick and roll was not the same lethal play that it is now. And that definitely would have helped him if he had played, 15 years later or 10 years later than he did. You saw a little bit of that though, when we, in 2017, 2018, even in 2019, he scored 50 points in a game where, you started to see the league kind of change and his offensive skills were, used to open up more for his teammates than maybe in the past. But that first season, I think he won. He'd need to win me over because I was already excited about getting him. But I remember going to school and being like, Jamal Crawford's going to be great for us. And all my Laker fan friends were like, dude, Jamal Crawford, he's old and washed. Like, because we got him at age 32. And I was like, okay, we'll see about that. First game goes off against Memphis on Halloween, drops Rudy Gay. That was a special feeling. That's when I knew we were in for like a good ride. And then that second game on ESPN against the Lakers on a Friday night makes Ron Artest do the spins, like literally puts him in the blender. Ron Artest. And we won that game, started the season 2-0. And I was like, oh my God, like Jamal's going to be in 6 Man of the Year conversations, and it's going to be a fun time. And, that season he finished second behind J.R. Smith. And I have no problem with J.R. Smith winning. He was awesome for the Knicks that season. And then unfortunately, and this is where we get into some of the negatives. So as far as that first season, 16 and a half points a game, just 2.5 assists though. So it's just crazy to think about, a guy with that kind of pick and roll chops. You might think, well, Jamal wasn't a very good passer, but if you actually go back and watch the tape, he's a very underrated passer. It's just that, he's playing in lineups with Lamar Odom and Ryan Hollins or Roni Turioff. Like that's not the same as playing with stretch fours and, even stretch fives of today. So that pick and roll was not the same. He was kind of just an ISO specialist that took a lot of tough shots and made a lot of tough shots, made a lot of incredible shots. But did he always take good shots? That could be put into question. And also, like, what's really a good shot for Jamal Crawford? He was such a bucket getter. He can make tough shots. And those guys are never going to be the most efficient. And a lot of people will say that's, he's just a chucker or whatnot. I don't view it that way personally. And if you want to deny that Jamal Crawford helped us win games, I think you're being insane. The 2013 Clippers went 56-26, which is tied for the second best record in franchise history to this day. It was a special, special season. And Jamal Crawford was a big part of that. He was our third leading scorer behind, of course, CP3 and Blake Griff at 16.5 points per game. He shot 44% from the field and 38% from three and 87 from the line. So I don't have it offhand, but his true shooting percentage was probably very good. The one thing that's a little concerning is he tied with Blake Griffin for most shot attempts. We probably would have rather had him shoot a little bit less. But at the same time, it's like, are we going to really police a guy that can get a bucket in so many different ways? I don't know. But in the playoffs, this is where we got to get to the nitty gritty. He was one of the reasons we lost that series to Memphis. His points per game average went from 16.5 to 11, and he shot 39, 27. I mean, made all his free throws 100%, but 39% from the field and 27 from three. And a large reason for that is because we went against Memphis, who had Tony Allen and Mike Conley. And Jamal Crawford always says to this day that Tony Allen gave him nightmares. And Tony Allen's one of the best defenders I've ever seen in my life. So I don't want to hold that against Jamal too much, but it was disappointing in that 2013 series. Now, so you can say he had a great season, but it was tough. And I also think Blake Griffin, being hurt in that Memphis series hurt us. And then also we lost Reggie Evans and Kenyon Martin. We did not have that same level of defensive interior toughness that we had in 2012 against Memphis. So our matchup with them got worse, contrary to the regular season matchup series where we swept them in the regular season. And then we lost that series. So, of course, Blake's injury made a difference, but I also think Blake and DJ were just not ready. Reggie Evans and Kenyon Martin played a huge part in us winning that series, and they were not quite ready. With Roni Turioff, Ryan Hollins, and washed up Lamar Odom, it just wasn't the same. So then the following season, Jamal Crawford wins 6 Man of the Year, averages 19 points and 3 assists on 42, 36, 87 splits. So again, not the best efficiency, but 19 points a game in the games that Chris Paul was out. He was very crucial for us. Of course, third leading scorer on the team again after Blake and Chris Paul. And again, though, shot more shots than Chris Paul per game, which I don't know if I like that. But, is that a Jamal Crawford problem or a Chris Paul problem? I don't know. But anyway, wins 6 Man of the Year. And in the playoffs, he was much better that season, 15.5 points a game in the postseason. But he shot 40, 34, 89 splits. So his efficiency did drop a little bit, which is somewhat normal, just given that in the playoffs you play against better defenses. And I don't know. When we lost to OKC, The only thing I blame Jamal for is that missed floater he had at the towards the end of game 5 against the Thunder. But like Chris Paul, if I'm being honest, really blew that game for us. There's not really much else to say about it. I think Jamal was good enough. Jamal was huge in that game 4 comeback at Staples Center against the Thunder. So I honestly thought that was a great season for him. Of course, his efficiency, as I said, dropped a little bit in the playoffs, but it was a very solid season. And then 2014-15, 16 points a game, 2.5 assists. Again, shooting splits not great. 40, 33, 90. So great free throw percentage, but just shooting 40% from the field and 33% from three. And then in the playoffs, he actually was amazing in game 7 against the Spurs. I'll never forget that. But his stats dropped again to 13 points a game, 36% from the field, and 24 from three. I cannot lie. There's no excuse for his performance against Houston. He could have been better. He should have been better. And he's one of the reasons we lost. And I love Jamal Crawford. He's my favorite one of these guys that I'm going to mention. But it is what it is. And then the 2016 season, I thought he was exceptional because we missed Blake Griffin for so much of the season. He averaged 14 points a game, 2 assists on 40, 34, 90 splits. So again, not the most efficient. But if you're telling me that we are better without Jamal, like I just don't believe that. I think he was huge for what we needed. He was a spark plug off the bench every single year and was literally our secondary ball handler behind Chris Paul. He was literally our secondary ball handler behind Chris Paul in all of these successful seasons. So if you want to talk about shooting splits and all that, what about the fact that we were a good team in large part due to Jamal Crawford? And in the playoffs, of course, that year he actually played better in the playoffs, 17 points a game. So his average actually increased. His shooting splits weren't very good, though. 38, 19% from three, which is insane. That's really bad for him. But we did not have Chris Paul and Blake Griffin after game 4, and Jamal Crawford nearly got us some wins there. Unfortunately, it didn't happen against Portland, but I thought Jamal was very valiant in that season, in that game, or in those games. And then 2017, played all 82 games, averaged 12 points a game on 41. So his efficiency went up from the last 2 years, 41% from the field. He shot 36% from three, which was also better than the previous 2 seasons, and 86% from the line. And in the Utah series, I actually think he played well in game 7. He averaged 13 points a game, which was actually more than he did in the regular season, and shot 42% from the field, which was actually better than the regular season too, and 24 from three. So my case for Jamal Crawford is longevity-wise, he put in some really great years. He won 2 Sixth Man of the Years, and above all, he was such a good ambassador for the franchise. He was incredible to fans. He always came in and gave 100% on the offensive end, which was his job. He's not the best defender, yes, but I thought there was no time where I said Jamal Crawford doesn't care. He loved the Clippers. He speaks highly of them to this day. And I just think he was an all-time great Clipper, to be honest with you. Very loved by the fans and for great reason. So that's my case for Jamal Crawford. But coming up, Lou Williams, baby. I got to tell you a little something about Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. I'm not going to lie to you. Before I started using Monarch Money, just these last couple of months, I did not know where all my finances were at. And I checked and saw that I was paying for things like Apple TV and the YMCA that I wasn't even using. So Monarch Money really helped organize those things for me. And you can do the same because Monarch is built for people with busy lives like me. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code locked on NBA. All right. So that was Jamal Crawford's case in terms of longevity, in terms of winning 2 Sixth Man of the Year awards, being super good to the fans, and being a super exciting player in an era that was beloved by fans and really changed our entire organization's history. Jamal Crawford. The case against him is his production usually almost always dropped in the playoffs, which hurt. Now, the next guy we want to talk about is Sweet Lou Williams. Although, you know what? I'm going to be honest. I don't think that the Sweet Lou nickname is good, because it's originally for Sweet Lou Hudson. So, you know, I don't think that's like Two Girl Lou is probably better. Two Girl Lou is probably better. I don't like to use Sweet Lou because, yeah, as I said, respect to the great Sweet Lou Hudson. But let's talk about Lou Williams' case, right? Of course, Lou Williams came to the Clippers from the Jamal Crawford trade. Also, you know what? Before I segue into Jamal Crawford, I've seen a lot of Clipper fans on Twitter get really nasty about Jamal. And I think because so many fans adore him because he's such a likable guy, like truly loves basketball, speaks super highly of everyone. Like I never hear Jamal Crawford trash any players or any era. He's super respectful of the past. How can you dislike him? He's just the pure, like he's just when you talk about pure hoopers, people that just love basketball, like Jamal Crawford was ageless. He was ageless. That guy's gonna be playing basketball till he's like 60. He follows me on Twitter too, which is just like casual, what's it called? Humble brag, I guess. And I'm very thankful that he does because I just love that guy. He's like truly one of my top 10, like, I don't know about top 10 favorite players ever, but like he might be in there. I just love that guy. So that's my bias. But like, people are saying like, oh, I don't even know if he's a better Clipper than JJ Redick. Like the responsibility aspect between JJ and Jamal is so different. Like, I just think it's insane to even compare them. They both dropped in the playoffs. And I think in 2017, JJ was absurdly bad, and Jamal Crawford wasn't that bad. And JJ, his job was just to come off screens and make open threes. Jamal Crawford has to be the secondary playmaker behind Chris Paul. Like, massive difference. And by the way, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. Okay, so back to it. Here was something I saw. Bleacher Report made a list of the Clippers' Mount Rushmore of this century, and the four names were CP3, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and Jamal. Now, let me just say this. They kind of set Jamal up for slander there because I wouldn't put him over the likes of Paul George, the likes of Kawhi even, but he's a great Clipper. There's no denying that. Or Elton Brand, for that matter. So they kind of set him up for slander. But Zubat season, shout out to Zubat season, a big Clipper account who I follow and mutual of mine. He said Jamal Crawford, and I pushed back on this, said was a terrible NBA player for most of his Clipper tenure, and I'm tired of pretending otherwise. So I think that's extremely hyperbolic. Terrible NBA player. Like, what's our basis for that? Like, yes, he has his flaws. You can say he's inefficient and he didn't play very good defense. Absolutely. But to say that Jamal Crawford did not help the Clippers is, I think, completely asinine, in my opinion. So somebody in the comments posted his lineup data when Jamal Crawford was on the floor from 2014-15 to 2016-17, so 3-year span in the regular season. We were plus 1.8 when he was on the floor, and then when he was off the floor, we were plus 10.7. But that's a really that's such a bad point to make because he's not a starter. So, of course, our starting lineup is going to have a better net rating. You know what I'm saying? And we know, anybody that's a Clipper fan knows, Glenn Rivers did not stagger Chris and Blake Griffin a lot. He would always put in a total bench unit, which Jamal Crawford would be the primary creator of in an era where, pick and roll was not just an automatic good shot. So that's not the same as now. So Jamal Crawford, that lineup data is just whack and a point to make. It lacks a lot of context. And then I said this lineup data is a terrible point because oftentimes Glenn I basically said what I just said. And then he posted again more lineup data. And I'm going to analyze this. So with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin on the floor and Jamal Crawford off, we were plus 15. Shocker, when our two best players are in the game, we're better. Like that's not a good point. And then they had Chris Paul and Jamal with no Blake were plus 13. I think the takeaway there is that Chris Paul is just very good. Prime Chris Paul was just really good. And then there's Chris Paul on with no Blake or Chris Paul. We're plus 10. Again, reiterating, Chris Paul was just that good. With CP, Blake, and Jamal in, we were plus 7.9. So again, that's pretty good. And then with Chris Paul off and Jamal and Blake on, we were only plus 0.2. Shocker, when our best players out of the game were not that great. And then when Blake on and Jamal and Chris off, minus 1.6. Again, shocker, with Chris Paul and Jamal Crawford, our only two perimeter playmakers outside of like Austin Rivers, were bad. Or not even bad. We're a little below average. And then when all three of them are off, we're minus 3.7. And then when Jamal was on and both of them are off, we're minus 7.4. Again, shocker, when we don't have our two best players in the game, we put all bench players in, we have a negative net rating. So none of those points mean anything to me. But here's what I'll say about Lou Williams. Lou Williams comes over in the Chris Paul trade, 2017-18. This guy, it's kind of a lost season. We traded Blake Griffin. Lou had that very memorable game when Chris Paul came back in town. He cooked, and he had that 50-piece against the Golden State Warriors and won Sixth Man of the Year that year, even though he started 19 games, but he played 79 out of 82 games. He averaged 23 points a game and 5 assists on, again, the efficiency was not that great, 43.5% from the field and 36 from three. But again, when we talk about Lou Williams, he's another guy who, like, what's really a bad shot for Lou? He had the ability to score from all three levels, amazing floater. That shot fading to his left was ridiculous. Like, I just felt like he would make every single one of those. Going right, he never really did it, but going to his left, it was just insane. He was a foul baiting extraordinaire. Every time they hand checked him, he would throw some shit up and he would get fouled somehow and get the call. I don't know how. So he'd had that over Jamal. But I would say this, when we had Lou Williams, the league had changed. Now you're playing a floor spacing 4. So, and even when we had Blake Griffin before the trade, he was knocking down threes. So that changes your impact as a ball handler if you can pass. And if you go back and watch the tape, Jamal Crawford could pass too. It's just the era was different. The spacing was different. The 4-out, 1-in pick and rolls were different. And so Lou Williams, though, amazing season, Sixth Man of the Year, but we didn't even make the playoffs. And then there's 2019 where Lou was absolutely ridiculous. We traded Tobias Harris. He was already great before that, where he was taking over games. It was literally like our crunch time scorer. But we traded Tobias Harris, and I thought the season was over. And this man literally played like an all-star. Like, he legitimately was an all-star level player, taking over fourth quarters left and right and getting us to the playoffs over the Lakers, who had just picked up LeBron in the offseason. Absolutely insane. We know about game 2 against the Warriors. We know about game 5 against the Warriors. The dude was absolutely ridiculous. He won Sixth Man of the Year back-to-back years, averaged 20 points, 5 assists on 42.5, 36, 88 splits. And in the playoffs, he averaged 22 and 8 assists. 22 points, 3 rebounds, 8 assists. He was ridiculous. Now, did he get shut down by Andre Iguodala after that? Yes. But he was insane. In 2020, he was amazing in the regular season, again, averaging 18 points a game and 6 assists and developing that chemistry for a second straight year with Montrezl Harrell. That was just amazing in the pick and roll. Jamal never really had a guy like that. He had that synergy with. He was 3rd in Sixth Man of the Year voting that year in 2020 behind Montrezl Harrell and Dennis Schroeder. And of course, in the playoffs, we had the whole lemon pepper Lou situation where he didn't want to be there, and that was very irresponsible of him. So that left a sour taste in a lot of Clipper fans' mouths. He only averaged 13 points a game in the playoffs and shot 42.5% from the field and 23.5 from 3. And it's a big reason we blew that 3-1 lead. His head was never really in it. He had that great game 4 against the Mavs in the first round, but it was just unfortunate to see that lack of seriousness from Lou. And then in 2021, he just looked washed and was kind of taking away shots from everybody else. And every time he got the ball, he kind of wanted to score and play make. And it felt like he was a ball stopper at that point. And he averaged 12 points in the regular season on 42, 38, 87 splits, which are good splits. But I was actually pro trading him because I thought he was just getting too selfish at that point. But those 2 seasons were better than any seasons Jamal Crawford ever had for us. And it's not even debatable, especially 2019. I mean, to me, that's one of the best seasons anyone's ever had for the Clippers. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was actually insane what he was doing. Insane. But coming up, going to be talking about Montrezl Harrell and Norman Powell and then giving the ultimate verdict. All right. So I've made the case for Jamal. I've made the case for Lou Williams. They each won Sixth Man of the Year twice with us. Jamal Crawford has 5 years on his belt. Lou Williams has 3.5 years on his belt as a Clipper. The argument for Lou, he peaked higher in terms of. I truly don't think Jamal Crawford ever had a season like the 2019 Lou Williams season. I mean, he was ridiculous, and it translated to the playoffs. And some might say Lou was a better passer. You can argue Lou was a better passer, but again, I'm going to make the case that the era was very important. We had Gallinari at the 4 and Tobias and Mike Scott. These guys are all floor spacers. So when you're guarding the pick and roll, you have to make a decision. If you're in drop coverage, Lou Williams can get downhill to his floater or his mid-range. If you hedge, then Montrezl is in a 4-on-3 with the spacing. You're always getting a good look. So you have to pick your poison. And then, of course, you can switch, and then Lou would cook you. But it's just relative to era. Relative to era, Lou was better in that season than any season Jamal Crawford ever had. So forget the assist numbers. It's just the eye test. In the moment, Lou was better. Now, Trezz, he's an interesting one to talk about because he was a fan favorite and then went to the Lakers, and that turned a lot of people off, but played for the Clippers and was also included in that Chris Paul trade. 2018, it took a while for him to kind of get going because Willie Reed was playing minutes for a while. But Trezz played 76 out of 82 games. He averaged 11 points, 4 rebounds, which wasn't his strong suit, but he was super efficient and was really good around the basket. One of the best touches around the basket I've seen for a role player in the NBA. His running right-hand hook was money. And when he was underneath the basket, he would always go up strong, and he was fantastic at finishing through contact. Now, again, Lou Williams is also a weak defender too, and Montrezl is also a weak defender. Although he had some nice blocks here and there, but just positionally, he wasn't great, and he wasn't a very intelligent defender. But that first season, he was solid. 11 points, 4 boards, 63.5% from the field. But 2019 is when he really ingratiated himself with the Clipper fan base. He became a fan favorite. That pick and roll with Lou and Trezz. I mean, I got a Trezz jersey. I liked him so much. The monster, I used to call him. Monster Trezz. I mean, he got the ball from Lou on the pick and roll, and he was going up with a dunk. It was beautiful to watch. He averaged 17 points a game, 6.5 rebounds a game on 61.5% from the field, and played every single game. He was so good that he had Ivica Zubac not playing as many minutes. And in the playoffs, he averaged 18 points a game and 5.5 rebounds on 73% shooting, and is a big reason why we took that Warriors team with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, DeMarcus Cousins, and Draymond Green to 6 games against all odds. I mean, he was incredible in my opinion. And per 36 in 2019, he was averaging 23 and 9. But he was averaging 26 minutes a game. But that duo of Lou and Trezz that season was just beautiful. And then the next season, the 2020 season, Trezz won Sixth Man of the Year with a 19 point per game and 7 rebound average on a 2 seed in the West. Of course, in the playoffs, his grandma died and he came to the bubble late, and he just never got going. And of course, we have the infamous, him getting cooked by Jokic and then Glenn Rivers leaving him out there to dry. He averages 10.5 points in the bubble and 3 rebounds on 57% shooting, which was just really bad for his standards. And it just made him look bad. So it was a very sour exit. He went to the Lakers because we didn't re-sign him because we wanted a secondary rim protector and went and got Ibaka instead. But those 3 years we had him, he was electric, especially the last 2 years. And then, of course, there's Norman Powell, who probably is going to be best remembered for a season in which he started, which was last year. But in 2023, because 2022 we got him and he got injured right away. But 2023, he was awesome coming off the bench for us. Had that really big game in Game 3 against the Suns in the playoffs. But in 2023, he was 4th and 6th man of the year voting. He averaged 17 points a game off the bench on 48, 40, 81 splits. So in terms of efficiency, Norm was amazing. And then, of course, got to the line really well. And then 2024, coming off the bench for the big 3 of Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi, He was also fourth in sixth man of the year voting, played 76 out of 82 games. And yeah, he played 76 out of 82 games. And I mean, was really good in his role. Can catch and shoot, could turn the corner and get downhill. Norman Powell's curls going from left to right were just money, and played really well off of James Harden and just the stars in general. And his three-point shooting was just amazing to watch. In the last season, he started all 60 games, so kind of unfair, to talk about him in a six-man reference in context. So the verdict is this: Norman Powell is probably eliminated from the conversation, at least for me, because he just didn't have as many years in that six-man role, unfortunately. But and Montrezl, again, just he would play at the same time as Lou Williams, and I wouldn't put him over Lou Williams. So it all comes down to this: Lou Williams or Jamal Crawford. Who's the ultimate Clipper six-man? Drum roll, please. As much as it pains me to say, because I'm a Jamal Crawford guy, I'm going with Lou. And the reason being is because he never had a season like 2019 Lou. He played longer for us, but Lou was literally an all-star caliber player that year. It was ridiculous what he was doing. It was insane. And the playoffs matter. And in 2019, and I think the craziest part is so many Clipper fans will say my favorite season was the 2019 season. And that's largely because of Lou. They're both legends in Clipperland. Like, they both can come back and get rousing ovations. But for me, it's got to be Lou Williams. At the end of the day, for me, it's got to be Lou Williams, the best sixth man in Clipper history. Sorry, Jamal Crawford. I absolutely love you, man. But that's just what I have to go with. Lou Williams is the ultimate six-man winner for the Clippers. Let me know your opinion in the comment section below. Jamal Crawford, Lou Williams, Montrezl Harrell, Norman Powell. Who are you taking? And I know it's going to be between Jamal and Lou, but I'm going with Lou. And I think the era helped him for sure, but hey, man, it's just relative. And Lou was insane. And that 2019 season will always hold a special place in our hearts. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Dime Dropper Pod. Subscribe to my own YouTube channel, Dime Dropper, for even more LA Clipper and LA sports content. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and you can listen wherever you get your podcast, but subscribe and hit the notification bell on the road to 8,000 subscribers before the season begins. Please do so. I see us getting there. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers.